Lawyers of Reddit. What is a detail that your client failed to bring up to you that completely lost you the case? A friend of mine is a lawyer, and he said that a client once turned up to court in the actual same outfit he was wearing in the burglary. When the CCTV footage came up in evidence, the client looked down to himself and was like, "Oh no." Not a lawyer yet, but I clerked for a DA's office throughout law school. Obviously, we don't have clients, but I'll never forget this kidnapping case I worked on. It involved two Asian male defendants who were both the same age and looked relatively similar. Witness is on the stand and is asked to identify where the defendant who pushed an Uzi into his face is seated. It's clear the witness is having trouble differentiating the defendants. In a true moment of brilliance, one defendant raises his hand and basically points to himself like, "Right here, bud." Hands down the dumbest thing I'd ever seen. I thought his defense attorney was going to have a brain aneurysm. Friend of mine is a defense attorney. He was representing a guy with a lengthy record for assault. Basically, this guy took an AC unit and threw it at his girlfriend. My buddy tells me he was able to get a plea deal for 1 year probation, no jail time. The judge is all ready to accept the deal when he asks the defendant if he had anything he would like to say. The defendant responds, "Yeah, I don't know why they're charging me with assault. I never touched her. I just threw an AC at her. This is bullshit." Judge rescinded plea deal because of defendant's attitude or lack of remorse, went to trial, and got a year in jail. That he filmed his offenses for his YouTube channel. The cops didn't even know. A witness brought it up on day 3 of a trial. It was a nice quick change of plea that afternoon. I'm still a law student, and this happened during my first internship at a court. A girl, among other people, was charged with drug possession, but because she had thrown away the drugs and the police couldn't prove that she bought or owned the drugs because it could have been one or the other people as well as who still had drugs on them, the judge ruled in dubio pro reo. Then he asked if she wants to say or add something, and this girl asked if she can get her drugs back. The defense attorney looked like he was about to get a heart attack. Not me, but my legal studies teacher, who used to be a lawyer, was representing a woman suing a supermarket for a slip that caused her to hurt her shoulder. She had to tell the court how much it had impacted life and the fact that she couldn't do her everyday tasks. She said, "I can't even lift my arms like this to hang the washing," and proceeded to show the court the exact gesture in perfect form that she was explaining she couldn't do. Credit card theft fraud case. When I was a young lawyer back in the late 80s, I was trying this guy on a CC case, and the witness was a department store clerk. Before video surveillance, the state relied heavily on witness identification. As she described the customer that was purchasing the very unique clothing her store sold, I asked her how she could be so sure it was my client. She looked at my client, who was wearing the most obnoxiously yellow shirt imaginable, and said, "Because not only does he completely match the description I just gave you, but he's wearing the exact same shirt I sold him." The jury convicted him, and I learned that day to better prepare my clients for trial. I am actually a lawyer, but I was only watching this trial, not participating. So the case was that woman A had hit woman B in the head with a heavy beer pint at a bar, and woman B got pretty serious injuries. The defense claimed that woman A had not hit anyone with the pint, but instead had just thrown the pint in a random direction, and it happened to hit B in the head. Thus it was an accident and not a battery. Well, the prosecution had a CCTV tape from the bar, and it was shown at the trial. And the tape clearly showed in HD as A walked behind B and smashed the pint to her head so hard that the pint shattered on impact. I looked at the defense lawyer, and his jaw literally almost hit the table. The prosecutor also noticed this and asked something along, "Thrown, eh?" And the defense lawyer said that due to technical difficulties, he couldn't get the CCTV tape open on his computer when he was reviewing the evidence. Woman A was found guilty. So yeah, I was completely dumbfounded. Not mine, but went to court over a ticket. Lady was in front of me for DUI and hit and run. The judge assigns a lawyer for her since she was so shook she quit her job. The judge asked the prosecuting attorney for details on the case. She legit says, "You mean that car I hit while I was intoxicated?" The judge stops, takes his glasses off, and says, "Everything is recorded in this courtroom. I told you not to talk to anyone about your case except the attorney that I assigned for you." You could tell he was ready to walk out of the room with the level of stupidity this lady showed. I'm a public defender in an area with lots of meth use. Meth makes most people talk. A lot. So I can't tell you how many clients forget to mention that they got to the jail still high and called their mom or girlfriend or buddy on the recorded jail phone and not only confessed to the crime, but also brainstormed whatever alibi or version of events I'm relying on to defend them. Case is a paralegal. Negligence case. Client argued that a lack of streetlights and a cyclist he couldn't see was responsible for him hitting a wire pole. Upon discovery, the first respondent's report indicated that they found the driver in the driver's seat. pants down, with adult content playing on the phone. Wasn't difficult to figure out who was negligent at that point. Not a lawyer, law student, and not exactly what you asked for, but I feel like it fits here anyways. We read about a criminal case in which there wasn't enough evidence to convict the suspect, so the suspect was not guilty due to reasonable doubt. And he responded, "Thank you, Judge, I'll never do it again." DA went into appeal and dude got convicted. Had a woman with an expensive fur coat and she claimed that the laundry ruined it. It was kind of ruined, but the laundry claimed those stains were already there. Judge ordered an expert opinion lab and the fur coat had traces of cocaine and other illegal drugs all over it. There was a raid at her place and then her husband got convicted because they found several kilograms of drugs. I was involved in a hit-and-run car accident. My leg was pretty mangled. However, the driver of the car was caught. Turns out he was a rich kid who was driving his mom's convertible Porsche, denied all knowledge of hitting me, etc. At the trial, the prosecutor asked him how long he had been driving, to which he answered, "Do you mean how long have I been driving legally or illegally?" The judge then went nuts, asking why and when he had been driving illegally. His defense team sat down in their chairs and shook their heads. Needless to say, he lost the case. Interestingly, he died a year later by drowning. He had hired speedboat in Holiday, flipped it over and drowned. Turns out he was drunk at the time. Not a lawyer, my parents had a long, messy divorce that took 2.5 years in court. My dad claimed that my mother was trying to take 100% of everything based on a settlement offer she sent him. He failed to mention to his lawyers that her initial offer, also sent to his previous lawyers, was a 60-40 split, and she only sent that 100% one in response to an equally unreasonable offer from him. As soon as she could prove the initial offer was reasonable, the judge basically ruled on everything according to that first offer. Her lawyers were so angry because they built their entire case around the idea that she was the unreasonable one. UK, not a lawyer as such, but a planning consultant. Client signed sworn affidavit stating he'd been running a truck park business for over 10 years on a piece of land. After 10 years, the use becomes immune from legal action. The counsel checked Google Maps and saw immediately he lied. Had only ran the business for 7 years. He had committed a criminal offense by submitting a false sworn affidavit. This one ended my marriage. Well, it was the start of the end of the marriage. My husband lost his job in the title mortgage business, applied for unemployment, got denied. I decided to help him with his appeal hearing. I asked him multiple times before the hearing, "Is there anything you did that caused them to fire you?" He says, "No, absolutely not. They fired him out of nowhere." Hearing day comes. He testifies under oath that he did nothing wrong, was a good employee, no issues. Upon cross-examination, the other attorney pulls out documents from one of his real estate closings, documents he forged and backdated, had to admit he perjured himself. Needless to say, he didn't get unemployment, and he didn't sleep at home that night. Not a lawyer, but a woman I know received several hefty speeding fines. In my country, you can go see a magistrate to have the fines reduced if you plead poverty. She heard about this and decided to give it a shot. So she went to court and told the magistrate a sob story about not having enough money. The magistrate heard her out and then asked her, "Madam, what type of car do you drive?" She replied in a tiny voice, "A Porsche." Not me, but my dad represented a guy in a civil case. He doesn't normally do criminal law, but in this instance, the question of a forged signature came up, and his client lied, saying he didn't forge it. My dad was very clear in explaining that admitting to him wouldn't land him in jail, it would just allow him to build a better case, but he still denied forgery, and so my dad rolled with it. He said his case was completely cut up once it came out that yes, in fact, the client did forge the signature. Guys and gals, your lawyers aren't a snitch. They're trying to get you the best possible result. Always be honest to your lawyer. When I was an intern at court, I was watching a battery trial with another intern. The defendant was asked if he can remember how many people were present when he beat up the other guy. He then turns at my fellow intern and says rather loudly, "She was there, but she didn't see anything. Don't trust her." Of course she wasn't there, and the defendant was found guilty. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel, press the like button, and don't forget to watch our other videos.